This conference will now be recorded.
So again, I want to welcome everybody. Along with this evening's program, the Mercer County Library System has many upcoming events. For Hopewell Valley Heritage Week, the library is hosting a talk, Washington's Crossing, the Rest of the Story, which talks about the role of fairies in that fateful night. And that is on Tuesday, May 25th at 7 o'clock. This month is Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And the library is hosting the author of Living and Laughing by the Chopstick Fork Principle, Kathy Bao Bean, on Wednesday, May 26th at 7 o'clock. So to register for these programs or to see any other programs that are going on for kids, teenagers, and adults, please visit our website at mcl.org. So tonight, the presentation tonight, I'm really excited about. This is such a fun topic, and I think with the pandemic, I know in my family, bicycling became a very big deal this past year. And tonight we have Sylvia Ascarelli, who is a cyclist and the author of the blog Exploring by Bicycle, as well as Michael Gray, who is the owner of Hopewell's Sourland Cycles, to share their knowledge and experience and expertise this evening. Thank you.
So thanks, Anna, and thank you to the library system, which I adore, for hosting tonight. Thanks everybody for attending. So I'm Sylvia, I live in West Windsor, and yes, I love to explore New Jersey and beyond on my bike. And as Anna mentioned, I also blog about my bike rides, and especially in Mercer County. So I hope you'll take a look every once in a while. Mike will handle all the technical questions because I'm not a gearhead. I just like to ride my bike. So I'm going to talk tonight about some of the great trails we have in Mercer County and nearby that really make for some fantastic family adventures. And weigh in the chat, please, with your own favorites. And thanks again, by the way, for telling us where you are. Before we get started on that, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about me. I learned to bike, probably like a lot of you, just before I turned 5. And as a kid, I biked to school and to the pool and to the park and to do my paper out, because back then, and it was a long time ago, kids still delivered newspapers. And then I took my bike to college and then let it go and started working. And at one point I started biking again. And then I moved to Germany, where people of all ages bike to get around. And I was pretty stunned when I was on a trail going to the next town and there was a nun wearing a habit who was coming toward me on her bike. It's like, wow, this is definitely not New Jersey, where I moved from. And I saw people doing multi-day bike rides with their kids, and I started biking to work and biking for fun and going on longer bike trips. And so here I am. Now I bike on the road and on trails, and I really like biking on trails just because it's so much more social and you can chat with your friends and not worry about cars. So what I don't do is mountain bike. So if you are looking for a talk about mountain biking in Jersey, leave a note for Anna in the chat and I'll let her find somebody. And if you want to talk about routes that go on road or on longer rides, whether road or trail, again, leave a message in the chat and we'll see if we can do another talk. But let me get this. But briefly, what have I learned about biking? You know, it's really all about having fun, and you don't need fancy gear, although padded bike shorts are a great thing. I wore t-shirts, not bike jerseys, when I biked across the US in 2000. And no, I don't call myself an athlete. But as for destinations and why do I ride? Food is always a great reason to ride it. And the Stockton Fire Department roast beef dinner in normal times is awesome. And who knew that you could find polo along the Delaware? This is just across New Jersey, across the Delaware River in Pennsylvania, opposite Frenchtown. And then there was this fun ride with George Washington. It was a ride organized by the Princeton Historical Society and some others, and George led his troops from the Battle of Trenton to the Battle of Princeton. So a couple things before you start biking, before you head out. Check your tires. Just like with your car, PSI, is on the side of the tires. Fill your tires up. They're not good to have them squishy. Is your chain rusty? There's bike lube, a special kind of oil. Use that. Does your bike seat need to be raised? I know a lot of kids have grown a lot over the winter. You want a look like this that has a slight bend in your knee when the pedal is down at, say, the 6 o'clock position. You don't want to be squished up with both knees when you're riding. Don't forget your helmet. Have it on level, not tilted back. Have it on snug. And just like your car, your bike needs a tune-up. And so I know bike shops right now are pretty swamped, but do call, make an appointment, get your bike tuned up. It'll ride more smoothly. And if you at least promise all of us that you'll do it over the winter, your bike will thank you. You'll be thankful. A couple points about trail etiquette. It's honestly pretty common sense, but I've been out with kids who ride up right behind someone because it's as if they think that other person's spidey sense is going to go off and sense that they're there, and then that the pedestrian will move out of the way. So I've taught them to say, hey, to call out, I'm passing on your left. And I personally try to make it a bit more friendly by saying, hi, just want to let you know, I'll be passing you on your left. But I think all of you have been on trails walking and you know how you want to be treated by cyclists. So when you're on your bikes, do that. So let's start riding. So my first pick, I'm going to talk about 5 trails. You might know the DNR Canal a little bit, but do you know how far it goes? And I think it's pretty stunning that it goes all the way from New Brunswick down to Trenton and then up along the Delaware River to Frenchtown. It's 34 miles from Trenton to New Brunswick and more than 30 miles from Trenton up to Frenchtown. So where to go? And where do you park? Because I'm assuming you're not riding to the trail. And one great place in Princeton is Turning Basin Park at Alexander Road. It's a pretty big parking lot. But I'm going to say it's also where the trail is most crowded. A bit further down at Quaker Road, there's parking. It's also a trickier intersection, I think, because of road curves, so just be a little cautious. The good thing is that once you're on the other side of Quaker Road, you never cross the road. It goes under Province Line Road and then even go over Route 1 on a bridge until you get to Carnegie Road, and then you have to cross the road. So the bad part, in terms of kids at least, is there is no ice cream right along the road. And you're going to have to go into Princeton to get your ice cream. But there's good ice cream in Princeton. And if you choose to go on the Delaware side, the 2 great places to park are Washington Crossing State Park. There's a parking lot right by the river. You don't need to go in the park. And the trail goes right alongside it. And you see a lot of cyclists there. And then it's about 7 miles to Lambertville. And another parking spot I like is at the northern end of Stockton at a place called Paulsville Mills. It's an old factory. And then you can ride either to Lambertville or you could ride this 12 miles or so to Frenchtown. Mike says the really good ice cream place in Lambertville is Oh Wow Cow, but you will find ice cream, plenty of ice cream in Lambertville, plus Stockton, plus Frenchtown. One of the great things also about biking on the Pennsylvania side or along the Delaware is that there's trails on the Pennsylvania side. And so you can do these great loops out and back. Oops, sorry. So you don't just go out and back. You can actually cross the bridge, usually have to walk it, and then cross over the next town. So from Stockton, you can go up to Bulls Island State Park, cross over, get on the trail, go back to the bridge, Center Bridge, and cross back over to Stockton. And it's just over 7 miles. And of course, then there's the ice cream reward for the kids for doing all of this. And one of the great things that's happening is that new I-95 bridge or 295 bridge that's under construction. It's going to have a bike lane on it. separated from traffic, don't worry, fenced off, and you'll be able to do a shorter route from Washington Crossing to the bridge and back, rather than going all the way down to Trenton and Morrisville. So I can go on and on for this, but on this one, I got to say, a friend who's on the West Windsor Bicycle and Pedestrian Alliance loves riding these trails so much that he's written this long article about it, and you should just go to www.bpa, West Windsor Bicycle and Pedestrian Alliance.org, and he'll tell you exactly where to park and all of his favorite food stops. So I just want to do a quick aside here, though. I mentioned the trails on the Pennsylvania side. It's called the DNL, and it's 165 miles of almost traffic-free riding between Bristol, south of Morrisville, and Wilkes-Barre. So one time I started riding on it in New Hope, and my computer said, next turn, 35 miles, which I thought was pretty fantastic, except that we didn't quite make those 35 miles because we, of course, pulled over for some ice cream. So another trail I really, really love is the Lawrence Hopewell Trail, which is a 22-mile loop from Lawrenceville to Hopewell and back, and it's almost done. And it's just beautiful and so varied. You're going through different fields, woods, past the pole farm. It's through neighborhoods. I just love it. It changes so much. So, and the other thing I love about it is that it connects to the DNR Canal at down here by Brewery House. So I love using the DNR Canal as my bike route, my bike version of US 1, and then using the Lawrence Hopewell Trail to get me part of the way I want to go somewhere else further west in the county. So where's a good section to bike? Well, I like I said, biking from the DNR Canal to the Lawrence Hopewell Trail through Brewery House, and then you go through the Lawrenceville School and you end up in downtown Lawrenceville. The bad thing right now is that there's construction going on at the Lawrenceville School, and that section of the trail is closed. So if you're not comfortable detouring onto the road, you might want to save that till next year. But you could start at the pole farm area in Mercer Meadows and bike back to downtown, or you could even start in Village Park if the kids are little, because you go downtown Lawrenceville and you've got an ice cream shop and you've got a bakery. Lots of choices, and makes everybody happy. The next couple of trails I'm going to talk to you about go outside of Mercer County. One is the Union Transportation Trail, which is, you find it off this road that connects Hightstown and Allentown. It's 9 miles right now, and I think it's really cool that it lets you say you've ridden across Monmouth County, because it goes from the county line with Mercer to the county line in Ocean. The parking lot I like to use is off, I take 539 between Hightstown and Allentown, and I turn onto Herbert Road. And right after Sharon Station Road is the parking lot at the almost the northern end. And then you can just head south. There is no ice cream stop right now on this route, but Ocean County will be adding trail hopefully soon that will take you to New Egypt, and then you've got lots of choices, pizza and barbecue and everything else. And then East Windsor is looking to extend the trail a few miles in the other direction going north, so it'll be in Mercer County, but that's going to take a little longer. So for now, in terms of ice cream, I'm going to tell you to stop in Hightstown or Allentown on the drive home. A bit further away, I really like this trail in Metuchen, an old railroad line that goes over 95 and Route 1. And you can park in Metuchen. There's a big parking lot at the western end of the trail. It goes all the way into Woodbridge. You're about a block or two from Whole Foods and not much further from the train station if you choose to arrive by train. It's only 3.5 miles each way, so 7 miles round trip. So not totally daunting for kids. There's also a climb over one of the highways. So you get the climb, but then you get that great descent and they get to go down really fast. And my last trail is this new section of this Delaware River Heritage Trail that's going to go from Trenton down to Palmyra and over onto the Pennsylvania side. This new section is not officially open, but it should open any day now. And it goes from Crystal Lake Park south of Bordentown to Roebling, and love it almost as much as the Lawrence Hopewell Trail. It's just beautiful, and you're going past water, you're going through parks, you're going on an old railroad line under Route 130, then you end up by the Roebling by the old Roebling factory, you're by the Delaware River, you cross the river line tracks, it's just wonderful. So I wish I could say I had a great ice cream tip here in Roebling, but I think you're gonna have to deal with the IGA or a convenience store and something packaged, or the quick check at the northern end of this trail. And if you're comfortable with road, you could really start in Bordentown and bike down. So those are just 5 of my favorite trails, but there's lots and lots of trails around here. So if anybody's got any experience with these, please share away in the chat. The Columbia Trail in Hunterdon County is about 15 miles each way, woods through a gorge. It's lovely. The Henry Hudson Trail goes in parts. It's 3 segments. The longest one is up in near Atlantic Highlands. Goes through towns, and then the last section leads you into Freehold, and doesn't leave you that far from downtown Freehold, where you go across the railroad tracks and you're in Bruce Springsteen's childhood Freehold. It's quite a fun ride. There's a trail from Allaire State Park to Manasquan that leads you almost to the beach, kind of near Surf Taco. The Edgar Helix Trail, it's about 5 miles each way. Like I said, with the beach. Oops, sorry about that. There's also trails within Duke Farms in Somerset County. They will let you bring your bike. And since I live in West Windsor, I got to plug the Trolley Line Trail that's about 2.5 miles, 3 miles long. We're soon going to get a little extension. It goes under the power lines and goes through a community park. And I take kids on it all the time. They love it. So you've probably gathered, trails really are everywhere. And most of them are pretty short, but there's some really long ones. And I swear, if Mississippi can have 2 40-mile trails, all of us can have some great trail riding. So the question then, with so many trails out there, is how do you find them? I'm just going to share my favorite way to do it. It's a website called TrailLink from Rails to Trails Conservancy. They're the people who have really pushed the conversion of unused railroad lines into trails, which are flat or practically flat because that's what the railroads could handle. So this is what the homepage looks like. You just type in your trail or your city. And so I looked up Lawrence Hopewell Trail, and this is what you would get. So you see where you can park and where the bathrooms are and all kinds of things. So you click on legend here and you see all these things. So I uncheck them all and I check nearby trails, and then you see what all your options are. And you can, and then you can click on these little green trail icons and get the information about that trail. And you can go wide, you can take a wider look at the US, not too crazy because otherwise it'll just be a giant mess. But there's just trails, like I said, everywhere. Totally awesome. So there's more. We're also really fortunate to be part of some bigger trail networks. And as people connect trails, they become more powerful. It's not just 2 miles here and 2 miles there, but all of a sudden you've got 4 miles, or you've got those 34 miles of the DNR and the Lawrence Hopewell Trail. And you can actually go places without dealing with traffic if you don't want to. So this is the Greater Philadelphia Circuit Trails Network, which covers 9 counties, including Mercer. If you're interested in getting involved with that, circuittrails.org is where you start. It also is great for finding trails in this area, or pick whether you care about, you want to look in Pennsylvania or New Jersey, pick your county, and it'll tell you whether something's in progress. This Delaware River Heritage Trail 130 bypass section is the one that should turn finished pretty soon. And otherwise, I'll tell you whether it's, so it'll tell you if it's in progress or it's finished. If it's in progress, it could mean anything from it's been designed, it's envisioned, to it's under construction. These things, unfortunately, take a long time to do. If you're interested in supporting trails, there are lots of ways to do it, and they appreciate your support. Even just with signing a petition, sending a letter to elected officials saying, thank you for these trails, I love them, now may I please have more. There's also something called the East Coast Greenway, which I love, which is a 3,000-mile route. Think of it as the urban Appalachian Trail for bikers and walkers, or I-95 for bikers and walkers, because it does the tough job of going through cities like New York, Newark, Philadelphia, all the way down the coast to Key West. I've ridden most of it. It's about 1/3 on trails and some parts on quiet roads. And I have to admit, some parts that aren't so nice, especially down in South Carolina and Georgia. The New Jersey section uses a DNR. And even in North Jersey, where you think, oh my gosh, it's totally crazy, there's so many people, it is surprisingly lovely. And you go through Union County parks and some quiet roads, and it's fun. And also you get all these fun food options. There's also something called the September 11th National Memorial Trail, which connects the 3 sites from that horrible day. And it overlaps a lot with the East Coast Greenway going down from New York to the Pentagon. It uses, this is all trail here going from DC along the C&O Canal to toward Pittsburgh using the Great Allegheny Passage. So those are just some other trails to think about, short and long. And finally, because I know you can't always avoid the road. If you're gonna ride on the road, you're all motorists, you know what you want to, but be visible, be predictable. Please bike in the same direction as traffic. It's not just the law, because as cyclists, we have the same rights and responsibilities as motorists, down to, yes, stopping at traffic lights, but it's also just safer. First, motorists don't expect you to be coming toward them, and they don't know what to do. They don't know what you're going to do. Should there be a collision, which I really hope would never happen, the math is it's worse if 2 collide head on than if one rear ends the other. Please bike in the same direction as traffic. I hate to say, I see too many kids who don't do that. And finally, learn to fix a flat, because you're going to end up somewhere where you can't get to a bike shop, just your car's not right there, and you need to get back to your car. Lots of YouTube videos will show you how to do it. Very basic tools, tire levers and a spare inner tube. And if you don't have quick release on your wheels, you would need them to have a little wrench, but nothing major, nothing too heavy. And you can fix a flat and then take it to the bike shop if you want. So those are my favorite trails, and I want to hear about your favorite trails, and I want to hear your questions. And Mike will, like I said, will answer all the more geary questions that you have. So thanks.
Okay, so we're okay to go ahead and start taking questions. And as Sylvia said,
And I actually, could I jump in before the questions and then cover a
absolutely
couple of things, and then I might be able to head off a few questions and kind of to
perfect.
support Sylvia here.
Okay,
All right.
give me
Is
one
it
second. I'm
possible
gonna,
to turn me on as a camera, or
yeah,
should I do that myself? All right.
you should be good.
There we go. All right. Thank you, Sylvia. I also want to put a plug in for a new trail that some friends took me on this year, the Neshaminy Greenway. If you're going over into Bucks County, it connects Doylestown all the way into Montgomery. It's off-road. It's beautiful, and there is ice cream in Doylestown, Sylvia.
All right, I'm headed there. I've been to Doylestown
It
with.
is a great destination for trails.
The Chamonix Greenway.
And there's a few places to park. Again, it's also part of that circuit trails that you mentioned. And people, if you want to get involved and help, the Circuit Trails Coalition is a 9-county consortium. Mercer is one of the easternmost counties. It goes down toward Camden to Philadelphia, encompassing the counties in between. And they're trying to do a great job of getting together and coordinating trails. The real big help with this is also the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, as well as help from the William Penn Foundation. Just so you know, there's a lot of people involved in linking up these good works. Sylvia mentioned lubing your chain. If you can hear your chain, it needs some of this. Put it on, run your chain, run the pedals, and then wipe it off, especially if you're riding dusty trails like the Lawrence, or like parts of the Lawrence Hopewell Trail, or the canal, the DNR canal. You see a lot of the dust there, and it sticks to your chain. So the lube wants to be in your chain, not on the side plate. So put it on and then wipe it off. You don't want a collection of dust. That's not going to help. A tube in your saddlebag, something like this. You can saddlebag under your seat. You can fill up your tube with CO2, tire levers, a little tool. All this fits under your saddlebag. Practice a little bit, burn a CO2 cartridge, and practice using it before you need it. Or you can carry a flat kit with a pump that just clamps onto your water bottle cage. Very handy, even less technical, and again, very useful. Pump your tires up before you leave. We see most flats that we see in the store are the result of improper inflation, not because they had a puncture of glass or sharp stones. It's because they left home without having their tires fully inflated. It says the inflation on the side of the tube. You don't have to go up to that number, especially if you're on gravel, but you can take it down maybe 10 pounds below that, and you'll have a very comfortable, very smooth ride. But pump your tires up before you leave the house. And like Sylvia said, those kids keep growing. Raise their saddles up if they grew over the winter. If you fed them, they likely grew a little bit. So raise your saddles up a little bit. Plenty of videos online to see how you can practice changing a tire, but we have that on our website as well. I also had just 2 quick things before we go to questions. I mentioned the Chamonix Greenway. Lawrence Hopewell Trail only has 2 sections that are not completed yet, but there's the 13-mile western stretch from Bristol Myers campus on Hopewell all the way down to Lawrenceville, and the canal is connected. And I mentioned the DVRPC and the Circuit Coalition. And that's those are the main things I want to do to support some of the things that Sylvia said. And I wanted to mention the Chamonix Greenway. Oh, one more thing. Every county that you're in has a trails planning action committee. Mercer County has one. Bucks County has one. Find out how you can support your local trails. Politicians, the people with the power and the purse strings support things that people ask for, and they realize that there's support for these things. Until the Lawrence Hopewell Trail started putting counters on our trails, we had no idea how popular they were. And once you got that information of how popular your trail is, it becomes much easier to support in terms of an extension here or resurfacing or maintenance money. So if this is something you value, please support them and let your local county commissioners or I guess they're county commissioners now, they're not freeholders anymore. So support those things. So thank you. I'll take your questions now.
Drop an email just to your mayor or your council members. You don't have to call them, you don't have to go to a meeting, but to drop them an email and say, hey, I really like this, thank you for it.
Yes, thanking them is really appreciated.
A long way. And I know we're talking about the fun part of riding, and these things take a long time to build. The Bicycle Coalition Circuit Trails Project, the goal is 800 miles by 2040 and 500 miles by 2025. They're pushing hard, but politicians react to what they hear. And if the people are out at the meeting complaining they don't want a trail and nobody shows up saying, I want it, they're going to say no. If you speak up, email, casual conversation, whatever, help us make trails happen, and then we can all enjoy them and we can all ride with our kids, with our friends, without worrying about being on the road.
Thank you. I do just want to point out real quick that some of the websites that Sylvia and Mike had mentioned, I have put in the chat. I put the West Windsor Bicycle and Pedestrian Alliance website in the chat, as well as the Circuit Trails organization that Mike or Sylvia, I can't remember now who, maybe both of you mentioned it. And then someone had asked for Mike's shop address website, and I put that in the chat as well. So those are there for you to investigate further. But there are some questions that are in the chat and if you do have any questions, please feel free to put them into the chat box, and I will pose them to our speakers so they can field them appropriately. And so Sylvia, one of the first questions that came up is about one of the trails that you talked about. Where to start? Where do you start the Heritage Trail? Where is the trailhead?
The Delaware River Heritage Trail. I tend to start in Bordentown. They're at the Park and Ride at the northern end of Bordentown by the River Line station. You can get to, there's an orphan section of the DNR canal that goes from Trenton south of the stadium. And until November, I didn't know how to get there. And I went on a bike ride from the Trenton train station down to Camden, and I blogged about that, and there's a description of how to get there. But the easiest really is to start in Bordentown, go down Farnsworth Avenue. There'll be a sign that tells you to turn right. It'll take you all the way to that quick check where you pick up the trail. That's the new trail that's starting. That's just, like I said, lovely.
And then there is someone, it's a comment on one of the trails that you had talked about. The UTT is a great trail, flat and crushed gravel, well marked every half mile and well maintained. Nice farms along the way and an interesting house next to the lake around mile 7. Porta potties in several locations, and it's definitely a recommended bike ride.
Yeah, if you're not with kids and you're comfortable on the road, I would tell you that you could get off at Burlington Path Road, and possibly the one before that, you can get yourself to Screaming Hill Brewery if your thing is craft beer. And you just want to sit outside on a Saturday or Sunday when it's open. It's like all craft breweries in Jersey, you know, there's no food, but they have ways you can bring your own, and unfortunately it's a kid-friendly place, but it's not the most kid-friendly ride to it, just because you have to go uphill. It's a pretty quiet road.
Let me see, here's a question. On the DNR canal, after you hit Trenton, the towpath disappears. At least I can't find it. How do you get from where the towpath ends in Trenton to where the towpath picks up again, heading north?
Yeah, I hear you.
That is a really good question.
I can answer it.
I can't answer it in a verbal descriptive way. You'd almost need to, you kind of got to go drive it in your car to practice, because there are some signs. You go by the monuments, and it's a bit overland, and you kind of need to know the direction you're going, but it's sort of marked. But you need to. It's probably something you should research, or at least rehearse in your car before you take the family down it, because there'll be a couple areas where you're going to miss, sadly
Yeah,
to say.
the last time I went down there, we were biking to Philadelphia over Easter, and we got to Battle Monument, and the trail, like you said, really peters out, and we're supposed to go on this trail, and it looks like it's a dirt path. It's not really a trail anymore. And it was not, it looked like, and then we went through a parking lot. It did not look great. It definitely needs some signage, but we did it coming the other way from the north, coming from Washington Crossing, the beginning of the pandemic. And there's a point where there were two options of where to go once you got in Trenton. And we pulled out our phones and took the one we needed to get back to the bridge and back to Morrisville, where we'd parked our cars. I have not gone, though, all the way down to Trenton and then made the turn up. So I wish I had better advice for you. I'll have to figure that one out and blog about it. Going past the water, to go south though, to pick up that orphan route, if you know how to get to the if you know where the ball field is, Waterfront Park, there's a trail that goes behind it, and then you get up on a ramp and you go through an elevated park, and that gets you past the rest of Trenton, and you end up on a road that goes past this boat place and sewage place, and then you turn left. And I know I don't have the road names in front of me right now. And then there's the DNR Canal towpath again, and it's 3.5 miles through the woods to all the way to Bordentown and the northern end of Bordentown, and it's fun.
And then I have thank yous coming through, and people are going to go check out the blog for more information, Sylvia.
Sylvia, we should do that one together. And post some pictures of that. I haven't done that in a couple of years too, so I'm sure it's changed as well.
No, and
it's funny because you exactly knew what he was talking about.
I know Trenton Cycling Revolution is working on some signage in Trenton. They're an advocacy group, and there's some bike lanes that have been added in Trenton. They are really working hard to make it more bike friendly.
And this question was posed, and this is actually about teaching kids, because you had mentioned learning how to change a flat, which I agree. It's one of the most empowering things to learn how to do. But they were asking if you offer any, or where someone could take their kids to any kind of bike maintenance class or workshop.
Mike?
We do. Well, before COVID, I guess we can start up again. We've been having Wednesday nights. We've been having clinics at the store before one of our group rides starts, just about some rehearsing, some basic maintenance. We don't get too complicated. It's really just to feel comfortable on the road. And we'll probably get back to doing them again. We just can watch our website, our Instagram page, but we have been doing regular Wednesday night clinics, and then we'll probably start doing the flat fixing again. Probably do at least one before 4th of July vacation type season comes up. So we'll definitely do another one, probably outside, just to accommodate everybody. But I don't know of other classes, because it's a two-edged sword. You can teach people how to fix some things, but also you can get into some trouble that way too. You don't want to.
Yeah.
Maintenance is good. Repair is a touchier thing to do in these brief classes.
So kind of the tune-up thing Sylvia was talking earlier, that's always good to make sure your bike is tuned up.
Well, yeah, checkups, and if you're having certain issues of not shifting properly or things that interfere with your ability to enjoy the ride, please bring it in. There's no fun being on a bike that's grinding, jumping, and just not giving you not allowing you to enjoy the ride. Then please bring it in. We're really down to just a couple days, 2-3 days turnaround now. We're through our spring rush.
Mike can't say this, but I'm going to say, I can't stress enough, biking is supposed to be fun, and part of the fun is that your bike runs smoothly. And if you have a really heavy bike, it's hard, it's just more work. And heavy bikes are the cheap bikes. They're the ones that you buy at Walmart and Target, and you can get an entry-level bike from a bike shop for not much more, and you will have more fun with it, and it will cause you fewer headaches in terms of repairs. There's a reason why those bikes at Walmart and Target are cheap. Part of it is the quality of the parts. They're being put together by people who don't know how to who aren't experienced putting together bikes. So they sometimes might put the handlebars on backwards or something, minor little things. Bike shop will take care of it. And if you get it at the bike shop, they will fit you, so you actually have a bike that is comfortable. It's worth the little bit of extra money to buy an entry-level bike at a bike shop. And that's as a non-bike shop owner, that's my plug for bike shops.
Amen. Thank you, Sylvia. Right now you have to get on our wait list. That's a sad part of this.
Oh yeah, Mike told me he ordered 200 bikes in November. He's gotten 5 so far. The bike shortage that started last year is real.
Yeah, I was telling her that we were having a hard time getting our son a bike last year, and we finally were able to. I don't see any other questions, but I do want to thank both of you. I know you've given me resources to go and look for other rides for my family to do. And Mike, I appreciate your expertise. And I want to thank everybody for coming this evening. And I especially want to thank our speakers for taking the time to do the presentation for everybody. Thank you.
Well, lots of fun.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, I really appreciate your opportunity here.
I'm getting lots of thank yous in the chat. People are only doing them to me. They're not doing it to everyone. Well, thank you, Mike and Sylvia.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Anna.
Have a good night, you guys. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.